I am Todd Simmons. I'm the Executive Director of Jefferson Performing Arts Society, and I am here today with Donald Jones Jr., who is our director for the first show of the season, opening our season, God of Carnage. Donald, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Let us start with talking about you. Now, this is your debut as a director with us. Actually, have you been with JPAS before?
Not as a director or performer, no.
Oh, okay. So this is your debut with the company as a whole, but you are definitely not new to New Orleans, correct?
Born and raised here in New Orleans.
Born and raised here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so born and raised here in New Orleans. I went to Brother Martin High School and also graduated from Northwestern State University in Louisiana, where I got a Bachelor of Science in Theater and Dance. After leaving university, I worked at a couple of regional theaters around the country, Jackson, Mississippi, Fort Collins, Colorado, and did a second national tour of the Color Purple musical for about a year and a half. And then that led me to work with Donald Byrd, the choreographer of that show, in Seattle for 2 years in a dance company. And then after leaving that dance company after 2 years, I moved to New York City to make my Broadway debut with Disney's Aladdin, and then transferred into Chicago, the musical, and then transferred back to another Disney production of Frozen up until the pandemic. And then after the pandemic, I decided to come back home just to sort of be closer to family because I thought I'd be away from New York City for about a month and a half. And then the pandemic extended itself, and I found myself being comfortable and really enjoyed being back home, being with family and seeing the city and being an adult in my city, which has been really, really nice. And I've sort of made the decision to be here to continue to create and be a part of the artistic community here in New Orleans.
Do you consider, how do you see the metamorphosis from performer to director?
I have always sort of been a director. I remember in my church, I would stage and choreograph all of our liturgical dance numbers. I always was interested in creating. I always wanted to tell a story through movement or song and dance. So even in high school, I directed and choreographed some of our musicals, some of our plays. So it's always been a part of me. I'm just getting a chance now as an adult to really use it as a full tool that I also have to tell stories and create. Also in New York City, I was able to do a little bit of choreography here and there, some on my own accord and some for other things. For Blues Clues, I've also been a choreographer for that. Before the pandemic hit, I was directing and choreographing a production of Dreamgirls. So the transition it was never really a transition. It was just something that I sort of always enjoyed that I'm getting a chance to do more now. Yeah, so, and I think it's really fun for me having to be on the other side now. I've been a performer for the last 30 or plus years. And I understand what it takes to be an actor, and I understand how actors work. So it's been really nice being able to connect with them and give them information and give them tools to use so that I can get the desired outcome for whatever the show is that we're producing or whatever the emotion is at the time. I feel like I have a really good connection with that because I've experienced being on both sides.
I mean, that is so very, very important. And I'm sure actors appreciate that as well because you speak the same language.
I think they do. I think we've had a great time so far in rehearsal.
We are very lucky at JPAS to have you coming back on, and not that there's anything lucky about COVID, but we're lucky that you're here for right now.
And happy to be here.
Let's talk about this show a little bit. God of Carnage. There are two couples in the show, and it's a very intimate show. Why don't you start by telling us about who the two couples are?
Well, the two couples are both sets of parents who have a child. One was injured by the other, and they're coming into the home of the injured child, just to talk and try to assess the situation, see what really happened, try to resolve it in some civilized manner. And they don't end up doing so. It kind of goes from being really polite and cordial to going to a full catastrophe. And I think both couples have, for the most part, have best intentions in mind with this meeting, but they were really not prepared for how each individual in the partnership would react to certain things that the other partner says or the other couple says. And there are certain trigger words and trigger things that each person sort of says that sort of allows the other characters to respond negatively or positively in some instances, because there are moments in the show where there are lots of alliances between the fathers and the wives, the couples themselves. So it's a really, really interesting dynamic, and it showcases a lot of nuance in how relationships work at home, behind closed doors, and how relationships work in public, and how if there's issues surrounding relationships at home, that they can involve how a child is being reared or raised, or sort of give, or how they can sort of give a false impression of what a successful relationship looks like, and how many relationships or people in general have a facade, and what you think you may know about a couple or what you think you may know about a person, it's really completely different.
Do you think, so the couple, it's Michael and Veronica, Michael and Veronica, do you think that they are trying to impress the other couple when they invite them over?
In a way, yes, I think they are trying to impress the other couple, but I also feel the character of Veronica, I think the character of Michael is just really trying to be there to be the backbone and support for his wife, because I feel like the character who cares the most in this situation really is Veronica. I feel like she really wants the children to understand how people act in public or how to be a civilized human of the world. And so she's really caring about how she's sort of presenting how they should resolve the situation. And I feel like the other characters are really just sort of being there to show face, and to be there to not seem like bad parents. Michael, I do believe he cares for his wife. I do believe he cares for his children. He may not know how to be the best father emotionally, but I think he's sort of dealing with the tool set that he was given. And Veronica herself, I feel like she really understands people. She thinks she has a really good understanding of the world, and she may be trying to impress them with how caring she is, how committed she is to certain causes, certain behavioral things that children are experience, but I don't believe that she is trying to impress them with like wealth or anything. I think she's just trying to impress them with the Good Samaritan vibe that she has.
Do you think that that's a legitimate, those are legitimate concerns of hers, or is she just doing that because it's impressive, or who she wants?
I believe they are legitimate concerns for her. I think they come off as not fully genuine, just by the way the show is written. But I feel like for her, even though it may seem that she is sort of forcing all of this stuff, I feel like she truly believes that she's a good person. But sometimes being a good person doesn't mean you have to tell people you're a good person. You just live and act in the way that a good person does. But I feel like she may be a good person. She just also wants people to see that she's a good person. So maybe she is trying to impress them in that way. But when it comes to money and finance, I don't think that's where that is.
I read somewhere recently that nobody ever sees you the way that you see yourself.
Yeah.
And I think this show is a really good example of all four people.
Sure.
Let's talk about the other couple. Alan says the catchphrase for the title.
Yes.
God of Carnage. Well, let's start by talking about them as a couple themselves. How do you see them?
They are both very disconnected from each other. And I feel like that show sort of is why maybe their child in the show is called a savage. I believe that they both know that their child might be a little bit of a troublemaker, but they are trying to appease the other couple and not allow them to see that their marriage is maybe not the most connected. Alan himself is very disconnected from the top of the show, from the situation at hand. And I feel as if Annette is trying to smooth over everything. She's trying to create a different facade as if she didn't know that her son is bad, and she is making sure that he apologizes, and she's trying to appease the other couple just so that they don't think that they are bad parents. And I think there probably is a mutual love and respect for each other, but there is definitely a disjoint in their marriage, because this is Alan's second marriage, and he has what we learned in the show, that he has a kid from another marriage. And I think that just the two of them, though they might be well off and successful because of their income, this is a moment that they are sort of maybe not the proudest of their family dynamic. She's in wealth management, he's a lawyer. Clearly, I think they earn a lot of money, and maybe they earn so much money that they have a nanny that they don't necessarily need to be there for their child, and so he maybe acts out or something. But for the two of them, even individually, I feel like Alan is kind of chauvinistic, and Annette maybe has her own little isms and sort of dislikes and phobias that are presented later in the show that I think allow them to not be seen in the greatest light, but they are still, how do you say, doing the best that they can with the situation that's sort of given to them in that regard.
Mm-hmm. In some ways, this show makes me think of the old adage that, when you have a problem, go talk to the person with the problem, or the person you have a problem with, rather than everybody else. And if the two sets of parents had just had the two boys talk to each other,
it would have, it would not have been any issue.
Yeah.
It definitely comes in, I think everyone sort of has an idea of what happened or how the other couple should handle the situation, as opposed to really getting to the root of the problems, like the two boys bringing them in, having a conversation, what happened, how can we resolve this? And it probably would have ended, but they chose not to bring the boys in. I guess they were trying to save face or one up on parenthood, and it just turned into chaos.
I mean, half the show is about when to get the boys together.
Yeah.
And if they should, or how they should, and everything, this and that and the other. I also, partially thinks that if Alan had just not shown up, if Annette had come along alone, then she would have smoothed it over in probably 5 minutes and been gone.
Probably, that's very true. She had just been there alone, because I think in the beginning, she really is trying to appease. She really is trying to make sure that the parents don't go crazy with anything. Either way, I feel, because both Alan and Annette have incomes that I feel are a greater scale than Michael and Veronica. I don't think financially they were worried, even if something were to happen legal wise. I think they just don't want to appear to be bad parents. And have a bad child.
Yeah, I mean, they even say that they'll pay for it. They don't really care. The money doesn't matter.
Throws that out a couple of times.
Do you think that it was like halfway through the show that we start suddenly get into the liquor? Do you think that any more truths come out when the liquor gets involved?
Oh, definitely. And that's sort of how we have it staged. And that's how it's written. So the looser the lip, the more they drink, the looser their lips are. And they start saying things that are really kind of off-putting towards the characters and maybe towards some of the people in the audience. There are some offensive things that are said in this show. So I want people to be aware that, those views that are expressed by these characters are not anything that, the actors believe or that JPAS believes, but it's just a presentation of how some people in our society are sort of masked. They allow themselves to pretend to be genuine and caring and aware, but once liquor or any other sort of intoxicant is present in their system, then they become very honest and their real selves come out, and sometimes to their detriment.
Do you think there is a parallel between that and society today of people just being able to be themselves, or are people today feeling the freedom to be themselves too much?
I think that's a good question. I think I enjoy transparency. I think it's good to know what you're being presented with. I don't like sort of meeting someone and not really knowing who, what they stand for or what they represent, and then sort of later finding out once they feel comfortable behind certain walls or behind certain intoxicants or liquors. But there is a sort of fine line where you do want to be your authentic self, but not at the cost of not allowing someone else to be their authentic self as well. You can have, your opinions and ideas or beliefs, but I think you should not project them to make yourself feel any better or make yourself stand out the way Veronica sort of does in the show.
Mhm.
I think it's important to really allow everyone space to sort of breathe and live their life the way they want to. But there are some parallels that, there are people in this world who present themselves as one way and really don't believe that, and are okay with living sort of dual lives in that way.
Mm. How difficult is it to get that to read sincere in an actor?
It took us some time. I feel like we read the script the first, 2 weeks, just over and over and over again, just to figure out how these characters could connect with the actors that we're working with the actors that we have. And everyone is so talented. I mean, after rehearsal yesterday, I know I give certain notes and directives, and everyone just latches on to them so quick. So it's been such an easy, it's definitely a challenge, but it's been easy to be able to work with everyone that we have. And, with the right cast, with the right people, I don't think it's difficult. I think the show is written very well and we have a strong cast. It is just finding those certain nuances in between lines or on the line, or just in sort of mannerisms and behavior that sort of allow us to see, well, they're definitely putting something on here, or no, that's their genuine self. And I believe in the beginning, I think I told the cast to really amp up the moments where I feel like it's a facade for them, so that once we get to the scenes where, they're more their authentic selves, there's a vast contrast, and we can sort of see that sort of entirety of the show has been sort of like a ripping down of the walls.
Mhm. Because of the obviously the change in venue because of the hurricane, that having to move from a bigger space into a smaller, more intimate space, do you think that it's going to read better in the smaller venue now?
I think it would have been fine either way. However, in this intimate space, I think the audience will definitely, just given some of the actions that happen in the show, will definitely have those moments where they sort of lean back, or sort of, we might hear more vocals depending on what certain actors say that come across as offensive or really hard to hear. But I think the intimacy of the show now, being in a smaller space, will definitely give the show a more immersive feel, for sure. Like they're a part of the conversation, like they're in the living room themselves. And I'm actually excited for that.
Mm-hmm. We had mentioned some of the more lighthearted things in it, and when first time I read through the script, I was very nervous from beginning to end. And there wasn't anything I found that was not quite terrifying what they were saying about each other. And when they would say things, it just made me so nervous. But when I've seen other productions of it, I see there are actually some ways of doing things quite lightheartedly and some funny moments in the show. How do you find those kind of moments with also keeping it real and not becoming funny?
I mean, I think in order to sort of digest some of the material in the show, there has to be some lightheartedness in it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it would be enjoyable to sort of sit there and just watch people just tear each other down.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely try to allow the cast to find their own versions of the character and to try to find their own moments. And we sort of collaborated and came together with this dynamic of the show that I feel like works, where we sort of get the lesson and we understand the different dynamics of relationships and how, people talk to each other and how, reconciliation can happen. But there are definitely very moments where things are offensive, and there are moments when things are funny. I wanted to keep it lighthearted, but I also wanted to keep it serious. And it took us some time to get there. It really did. Like, I had no clue really of how to go about doing it. I sort of work best once we read the script and we started to really understand the story and what we wanted to present. I sort of do best when it's on its feet, and I sort of watch how everyone interacts and try to find the moments that felt genuine and say, okay, that was a genuine moment. Let's keep that. Oh, that was really hard hitting. Let's keep that. Let's dig in a little bit here. Let's lighten that a little bit. Let's pull back. So I feel like it's just sort of tweaking different things, like taking the whole thing, taking the whole block of stone and just sort of chipping away at little moments to sort of find the nuance that I felt like would work for our cast in this production here in New Orleans.
That's a really good point that I'm not for sure people realize about a director is it's not necessarily just you coming in with a set of this is how it goes. It really is you working with the specific actors, the specific skills, and being their eyes for them and leading them to what really looks the best and sounds the best and works.
Yeah, it's been really, really enjoyable. And I know the show sort of takes place in New York. Being in New Orleans, there are moments where like there are certain things that are specific references to New York. So knowing that it'll be a local audience, I was trying to make sure that we have moments where we try to get an understanding of where the location is, and if certain things or certain words were unfamiliar to me or the cast, that we really took time to sort of dissect that. Like, oh, even last night, we're 5, 6, 7 weeks into rehearsal, still making new discoveries about certain lines. And I think that's sort of the beauty of the process for me, is not allowing it to ever be finished. And I also told the cast, I'm not the kind of director who expects the same performance every night. I think that's actually boring, trying to hit the same beats. But I really just want you to be fully present each night and to be fully genuine and committed, and make sure that intentions are the same, but the action can have a little difference, because that's just the way that the world works. Nothing is ever the exact same every single day, every single minute. So it's been a joy to sort of allow each actor to be fully expressive and to let them feel comfortable bringing their best selves to these not so best characters.
Well, I think this is a great opportunity for New Orleanians to see a piece that they probably wouldn't see very often. It's a fairly new piece too.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. These 4 people with you as their director have never done this before. And every night will be a new show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's scary, but I think that they are all up for the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Well, where's after this? What goes next for you?
I'll actually be staying here in New Orleans. I had an opportunity to go back to New York City to be a part of a major production, but I have really enjoyed being back home, and I'm really enjoying trying to define myself in the creative community here in New Orleans. And I am interested in just finding other ways to collaborate. I would love to work with Jefferson Performing Arts Society again in future productions, classes, seminars, what have you, because I just feel that there's space for me here. Not that there wasn't space for me in New York City, there definitely was, but as an adult, I feel like there was space for me here again now. I guess as a child or as a teenager, I felt like I had to go away to find the thing that I needed and find the thing that I wanted. But now as an adult, I have an understanding of, whatever I felt like I needed, I always had. And I just want to continue to sort of grow here in my city and sort of see what new seasonings the city can sort of lay on me. So I'm here. I'm kind of content with being back home and being around family and creating new relationships with the arts community here, and then maybe bridging some gaps, maybe going back to New York City later, or expanding my creative endeavors here and elsewhere.
It's wonderful. Well, we are, as I said, we are very lucky to have you here, and I can't wait to do more projects with you here at JPAS. I look forward to a lot of fun things in the future, and I think that you're right. There are so many people here with such creativity, and I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people believe you have to go away to find your opportunities, and you don't. There's a lot of opportunity in this community.
Yeah, and I want to help be here to mold it and help it mold me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here and talking to me today, and thank you for being a part of this show. We open It's a later date than what was originally open on October 1st, again, because of our lovely hurricane. And we'll run for 2 weekends and at Westwego, but people can go online to jpas.org and they can get their tickets there. And we'll look forward to seeing them all.
Awesome.
And thank you so much again, Donald. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.